So far in the series, we have talked about client side rendering. Okay. But today we are going to dive deep into something called server side rendering. So, in server side rendering, instead of client, which is your browser, creating the whole HTML, adding the JavaScript, we have a server which can pre build everything and send it to the client. What are the benefits of this? Well, first of all, our bundle size will be small because we don't have to do a lot of stuff on the front end side, right? Sorry, in the client side. If you're not sure about what is client, what is server, so basically we have two way to run an application. Just think of the first is your browser. Your browser has a capability to run JavaScript. We all know that because there's a way like you can disable JavaScript and you'll see like most of the application will break. So that happens because browsers are made to run JavaScript. That thing I think is pretty clear. If you're a web developer, you should know about this. And servers can also run JavaScript because we have Node. Node can run on a server, right? So the concept is instead of your browser handling everything, imagine you are on a phone and you have a weak 3G signal and trying to load an application. I mean, it will just slowly loads in and it will show you those components and come to life, right? What we can do, we can have a server which can do that for us and can which can send it to you. Now in this case the 3G will remain slow, right? I mean, I'm not saying like with 3G if you have server side running it will be fast, but it will not impact your browser. Like it will not consume that much power because it doesn't have to do that processing of JavaScript. I know I'm taking a while to explain you everything because this is the concept you need to understand when you go do a job, right? Because over there you need to take care about a lot of things like how can you make it performant, right? Your website, how can you make it friendly for SEO? So all kind of things happens, but we don't talk about during development because we feel like oh those things can be sorted out easily, right? But that's the basic premise behind why we have server side uh, rendering, which we call SSR. So hopefully this is clear. Hopefully this is not too complex. We have few examples we're going to see so that you can learn how in Next.js you can do server-side rendering, which is pretty easy. Um, all the components by default are server-side rendered, but not even talk about that. Let's take an example. So I have two. Let me pull this here. So I have two URLs, UPath, slash node and slash client page. Basically the same thing, but this is client side and this is server side. How do you differentiate? How can you know like which is which? Let's go to our inspect and let's go to network and select this dock. You refresh it, you get this, and in the response, you can see we have our title, which is create next app over here, and then somewhere we will have Notes app, Code Stack, Learning, React Server component, right? So everything is here. So what it is the HTML file which this browser fetched and showing it to us. So this way, like another, like if we see the performance side, let's refresh it and see the largest contentful paint LPS is 0.61. Let's check for this one. Let's check first of all. I'm curious. Let's see. If I go to performance, if I do a refresh, oh, it's already almost 1 second. See, it's more than 1 second now. So it's clearly like half, almost half more than right. There's a difference. So this page, performance wise, maybe I'm not saying it's double as performance because there's nothing here, right? So performance, it's a whole debate, but just to make you understand, right? In the doc type, if I get node, I have the title. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong way. Network, if I do client page, all I have here is just those chunks, those JavaScript which gets rendered. See these chunks? These get rendered here. So all your JavaScript code will be break down into small chunks, mostly by Webpack or like Vite, those kind of services, and then they can just uh, send these chunks. So you will not when you see the code, you will not even able to like read it because everything is like mushed down to a level that it is like has no console logs, no comments. Everything is just removed so that browser needs to do the minimum work, and Webpack or Read take care of that. So this is the basic, like hopefully like you're understanding what is a server component, client component, right? So this is like basic thing. Okay, now let's see the code. which we are most interested in, right? I have a database, a dummy database. I have no, no, no. What I do? Did I move it? Yes. Uh, okay, so for some reason I'm not able to get rid of this error. But funny thing, I'm not getting that same error here. I'm putting the same thing. So let's not worry about that. Okay, so first of all, we have this database. Okay, so database has few things. It has this nodes object and this authors object. If we in our get method, we have this ID which we're passing, and then we're returning some object which has ID, author ID, and text. Same we doing with author. We're adding async so that it looks like that it is has some delay, right? It's a promise, so that it needs to be resolved, and then we get that value. So if you're not understanding this code, just try to make it like this is our database. You just get something if you hit it. That's the easiest thing. Yeah, you don't need to go deep into that. If you want to, you can. But so we have this component, not component. You can, yeah, but I'm exporting two components here. So the first is, well, I'm not exporting. I'm exporting only one. Okay, okay, not go, don't go deep in that. First of all, we have this author component which takes an ID, and the author awaits because that's async function, right? And then it goes to db authors.get id, and id is what we pass here, and then we can return in the return. I mean the JSX, we get the name of the author. Similarly, for the note, we are doing getting the note, fetching the note, passing the author the ID, and here we have our text. So if we see our note page, here we are passing the ID one. This is just dummy code we are doing. I'm literally doing just nothing. Just so that you understand, like we have a note component which is here, and which inside has the author component which is here. So that's it. It's too difficult to understand. Please read it carefully. It's very easy. Yeah, we don't have Tailwind, so this won't work. Let's remove that. Okay, so let's not uh, talk about the client page. So this is what, like, if you see here, if I refresh it, this is what like you see. We have everything coming here in the network tab. If I load the JS, we have our server side code here. But we're more interested in the doc because it is what the HTML has, right? Now let's see the client side code, what we're doing. Say everything is same, it's just now it's client side. So we have this use client directive we didn't have here because every component by default is a server component. So where we have use client, so I mean it will run on client. We have our component declaration here. It's a page actually. If you see, I have a client page folder and then ph.exx. So over here we are just fetching our data. So we have, first of all, the useState hook. So we have this node and set node. So set node is going in the use effect as soon as the component loads. We are pushing our n values here, n and a, and then n for nodes, a for author, and over here we are just, if it's empty, it will say loading, and at the end we'll just passing our values. Nothing crazy I'm doing here. Again, so if you couldn't understand this, you can read it, but this is what we're doing. Basically, we just have a use effect hook, which is just fetching data from that database which we created, and we have few of these use state hooks which are getting the data and saving this, because this is a setter function. Node is where set node is what stores the value in the node. We already talked about that. If you couldn't understand, please go back, watch the use state hook video. That's it, and that is what rendered here. So this is the basic difference between a client component and server component. In the next few videos, we're going to go a little deep into that, so that when we have our project, we know like how to do server component, how to do client component, and not only that, we're also going to learn few the new hooks that comes with server component. Server components has this bad rap. I mean, that's a whole mess because React used to be, let's say, a client side rendering, and then they converted it into server side, and then people don't get it. That's okay. Um, so this is what we are going to do. We're going to go deep into server side rendering. That's all from this video. Thank you.